Any conversation about emotional regulation will benefit from the inclusion and the understanding and even the mention of a concept called the window of tolerance. Now, this concept is given to us by someone I mentioned quite a bit, the world-renowned author, teacher, professor, Dr. Dan Siegel. So just give him credit where credit's due. So the window of tolerance is essentially this space in which we feel, stable and steady and grounded and sort of solid in ourselves. But we also at the same time feel adaptable in this space. Because as we all kind of know intuitively somehow, even if we don't consciously contemplatively, explore it, we know that life is in a constant state of change. Our bodies are constantly changing. Our circumstances are constantly changing. Our moods are constantly changing. Our emotions are constantly changing as a response to all the other changes that are happening, but it's all in a constant state of change. In fact, the only constant to the entire universe is change. So therefore, this window of tolerance it shouldn't be seen as something that is like this rigid and static space, but rather it's always in a state of this sort of analogic change. Now, this change can be seen, or this sort of, impact on our window of tolerance can be seen as a global sort of lifespan thing, right? Our childhood trauma versus a childhood that was, supported and attached. It could also be illness. It could also be poverty. It could be all kinds of things that can impact on a lifespan level this window of tolerance. But the window of tolerance is also impacted by our moment-by-moment status. How do you feel right now? Are you tired? Have you had enough to eat? Have you eaten healthy foods today? Have you exercised today? Have you, exercised your mind and the system of attention in your brain? These are all going to impact our window of tolerance throughout our moment-by-moment experience, all day, every day. And so you notice I mentioned attention because this is my area of expertise. Now, again, it's not to say that the only impact on our window of tolerance is attention. Again, food, rest, cycles of, sleep and exercise and all that stuff is all very, very important as well. But the attention is hugely important as it relates to both the window of tolerance and emotional regulation. When we cultivate or when we do the practices of attention training, we promote what Dan Siegel and many other neuroscientists talk about is a state of integration. Our brains are an enormously complex system. And that system is made up of lots of different nodes that are responsible for lots of different things and lots of different regions and all that. And they're all connected to each other. Now, how well they're linked and how robustly they are operating determines the level of integration or disintegration that exists. Disintegration creates a narrower, window of tolerance, whereas integration creates a more, full and wider and more voluminous window of tolerance. Meaning the more we, practice attention training, the more we cultivate the ability to handle life's difficulties. And what do I mean by that is we handle life's difficulties without the emotional dysregulation, which is to say a disproportionate emotional response. Because the emotions and the body are so closely intertwined, and so are the thoughts. They are all like one sort of process. And so the emotions that we feel are going to impact the body, which in cases of illness or cases of aging or cases of all kinds of ways in which our body is concerned, has a deep, deep effect. So the more we can cultivate this attention training, the more we can build this robust integration, the more we find ourselves in a wider level of tolerance. This window of tolerance becomes more open and more inclusive of a great many things. I cannot even tell you the stuff that I'm able to manage right now at this point in my life compared to 10 years ago when I would just absolutely lose my stuff, just completely lose it in the most inappropriate and disproportionate experiences. Things like, yelling at people or like really losing my temper with people who are, working in stores and stuff like that. I could tell you a million stories, road rage, all kinds of stuff. I don't experience it anymore. And it's not to say that I don't experience the emotion, right? I get frustrated at the person who's not doing their job well. I get, a little peed off because of the person who cut me off in traffic. I still feel it. It just doesn't overwhelm me. And therefore, it doesn't drive my system into a state of stress. And therefore, I'm not inviting dis-ease and discomfort. But one of the most important aspects of all of this, and this is where it sort of becomes a fulfilling sort of a feedback loop, if you will, is another thing that comes from Dan Siegel, another concept that comes from Dan Siegel. He has a quote that he says a lot in all the classes I've taken with him and stuff. His quote in all his books and everything. His quote is that, one of many quotes, but the one I'm talking about here, integration made visible is kindness and compassion. So as we cultivate this integration through just training our attention, 12 minutes a day, 5 days a week, that's all we're talking about. Nothing magical, nothing mystical, just very simple exercises. We widen this window of tolerance, allowing us to manage our moment-by-moment experience without, the really difficult emotions. And then we also experience a sort of automatic and sort of natural flow of kindness and compassion. Now, this is very important to think that, that makes you like sort of a nicer person and stuff like that. And that's wonderful. Yes, beautiful. But that's not the benefit that we're talking about. Kindness and compassion is our inner voice. Kindness and compassion is how we treat ourselves before it is how we treat anybody else. And this is what allows us to make choices in our lives that benefit us, that move us towards a place of health and a place of well-being rather than pushing us away from that. And this is true even for people who are undergoing chemotherapy or radiation treatment or, facing surgery for cancer. And it's not to say that this is going to be some miracle cure, right? It's not to say it's not, but it's not to say that it's going to be a miracle cure. But what it is to say is it's going to put yourself and your body in the best position to move towards that healing rather than move away from it. Whatever context that means, whatever point you're starting at, it's one direction or the other. And what we're saying here is that the more we can cultivate, and this is backed up by, just tons of science, that the more we cultivate attention training, the more we're moving in that direction of healing and well-being. And that's what I want for you. So if you're interested in starting, leave the comment, send the DM, and I would love to help you get started. I can tell you more about my drop-in classes that are happening all week, every week, and won't take more than 20 minutes out of your day. All right, everybody. Wishing you well. Take care.